We're looking at rational denominators. What is a denominator? Yeah, the bottom half of a fraction. Rational. Can be radical. I don't know why I kept saying. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said rational. Radical. What is a radical?
It's the square root thing.
Mm-hmm. Something like that? Okay. We've had problems like that, but what we're going to do is work with problems like this or something. On this one, what did we do? But this one's a little bit different because there are two terms. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so looking at conjugates. Have y'all heard that term before?
Conjugate, like for a ceremony or something? Well,
that's like an English. Conjugate. Conjugate is English. We're looking at conjugate. I guess that you can say it the same way. Yeah, you've heard it in Spanish. Yeah. You might have heard it in English. Conjugate the verb. Something like that.
Conjugate. Oh, stop. I heard it.
Yeah. All right. So if you look at these two, it has two parts. 5 and the square root of 2, correct? That's for the two-part expression. It's the exact same in every respect except that the sign in the middle are different. This one is a minus and this one is a plus. You see how that works? That's the only difference between the two. That's when they are called conjugates. What would be the conjugate of this thing? Do you see how that works? The sign is changed in the middle. Okay? What would be the conjugate of that term? Does that make sense? What about the conjugate of that? Does this negative sign go away? Only the one in the middle changes. You see how that works? That's what the conjugate means. No, it's a different term. It's called the conjugate. Does that make sense?
I was thinking we just like had it probably just
No. Any question on what a conjugate is? Okay. Do what? All right. Those are conjugates, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How are we going to multiply them together? We've done that before. So see what you get whenever you multiply those two together. you multiply the first, what do you get? Outer. The inner. And then the last. Y'all see how that works? Any questions so far? What did you get? What did you get? Which is 2. Five times square root of 2 is just 5 square root of 2. And then square root of 2 times 5, 5 square root of 2. Do what? Do you have those? It's okay if they're not in the same order. What do you have instead? Yeah. Does that make sense? This 5 is not in the radical, so you don't multiply it with the 2. There's a 1 out here, so 5 times 1 is just a 5. And then a square root of 2, there's no square root over here, so you just put the square root of 2 behind it. Any other questions so far? What do you notice? Middle 2 cancel. So we started with radicals, right? But when you multiply by the conjugate, what happens to your radicals? They disappear. Does that make sense? Okay. So we want to simplify it by rationalizing the denominator.
Oh, this is kind of like the reciprocator. Yeah.
No.
Oh,
What do we have in our denominator right now?
you have the radical.
A radical. Are we supposed to have radicals in our denominator? So anytime you have a radical in your denominator, you're either, if it's like 2 over square root of 5, you're going to multiply it by square root of 5 over square root of 5. Or this one isn't just one radical. It's got 2 terms. So you're going to multiply it by negative square root of 4 minus square root of 3 over negative 4 minus square root of 3. What is this all simplified to? It simplifies to 1. Anything over itself is 1, right? So are we changing the value? Okay, what is this called? Conjugate of this one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what happens when you multiply 2 conjugates together?
They just go and leave just one number.
Without the radicals. Does that make sense? Which is what we're trying to do, get the radicals out of our denominator.
Okay, I understand. Okay, but now the radical will still be in the numerator.
Yeah, that's okay. You can have a radical in the numerator. I like to put parentheses around everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Actually, I really don't. But when I did these in Algebra 2, I did. So if you need to put parentheses around them, you can. For the numerator, what are we going to have? Does that make sense? Okay. What are we going to have for our denominator? 16 Any questions on the denominator? You FOILed it. These 2 cancel. And what are you left with? Do we have a radical in the denominator anymore? So now we have rationalized the denominator. That's all you do. Any questions there? Yes. They're usually going to take the negative out of the denominator and put it up top. Any other questions? So that's usually how they're going to write it. If our answer had been this, they're going to rewrite it like that. I don't care. No, but just so you know, they're usually going to take the negative out of the denominator and put it in. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So see if you can simplify by multiplying by the conjugate.
Take it slowly. Oh crap. Oh crap. Okay. Okay, I got it number 8. Okay, because I didn't even write it correctly to be
Okay, y'all all set it up correctly? Well, Miranda, other than the fact that you left off the radical, you set it up correctly. I don't know whether you got it right or not, but you all started by saying 2 square root of 3 minus square root of 2 over 2 square root of 3 minus square root of 2. Does that make sense? Okay, so what should you get for your numerator? Do I need to go over that part? Okay. What would you get for your denominator?
Plus 2 square root of 6 minus 2 square root of 6 minus 2 minus square root of 4, which is 2.
Do I need to go over that part? No? Okay. 6 square roots of 3 minus 3 square roots of 2. 4 times 3 minus 2, which is 10. You have to be careful on these. 6, 3, and 10. Will those reduce? If this were a 4, would they reduce?
Yes.
Yes. And if it will reduce, you do have to reduce it. Does that make sense? All of the numbers outside of the radicals, only if they all reduce by the same thing. But if they don't, you just leave it. It's 6 square root of 3 minus 3 square root of 2 over 10. 4 square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. Any other questions? Okay? Mhm.